he is. I got to admit, I'm a little bit surprised how bullish you are on JK Dobbins. He's been in the league only 4 years. He missed all. Now, he had a very encouraging rookie season with Baltimore. But then he was hurt. He lost all of 2021. Came back in 2022, only played in 8 games. 2023 only played in 1. 2024, a bounce-back season of sorts, but again, only played in 13 games. Had 195 carries for 905 yards and 9 touchdowns. So that's the part of it you like. But
okay, who do you want, Mike?
Honestly, I'm fine with bringing back Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, and drafting a couple running backs. I'm not really feeling the urge to go out and get JK, unless it is just a crazy, absolutely no risk type, low risk, high reward type move.
We need at least an adult in the room, Mike. I mean, Jaleel's going into his 3rd year. Estimated 2nd year. I don't know about Watson going into his 2nd year. Bidet, I don't know how many years he's played, but not that many.
J.K. Dobbins has played a whopping 4 years in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. With more experience than those guys, at least he's been a true starter in the NFL. Those guys, none of those guys even have. So we're just going to say, all right, hey, running back room, we're going to go with just a bunch of kids in there. I don't like that approach. I understand. There is J.K. Dobbins isn't perfect. Guess what? We're not giving him a 5-year, $50 million contract, folks. Show me the names on the list. We're in the 2nd week of free agency here. There's not a lot of options. So I'm trying to take the best of what is out there. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not I mean, if Saquon was out there, sure. Is Derrick Henry available, Mike?
No.
I didn't think so. How about Josh Jacobs? I'd love Josh Jacobs. He's not available either.
Right.
So I got to go with J.K. Dobbins. I'm just saying. But
why do you have to sign a veteran running back? Why?
I just told you why. I want a guy that has actually produced at a high level, and he has produced at a high level. He had 905 yards last year, okay? 9 touchdowns. I understand he has been injured, okay? And, a couple years ago, he had a bad knee injury. He only played 1 game. Well, guess what? The Chargers took a chance on him. It worked out pretty good for him. I watched the Chargers a lot this year. Their running game with J.K. Dobbins was really good. Their running game without J.K. Dobbins was terrible. They had no running game. He played in 13 games. It wasn't like he played in 5 games. He only missed 4 games. 9 touchdowns. So I was skeptical of them signing him last year because of the 2 previous years. But, man, he impressed me. There's not a lot out there. I just want to have a known. Okay, so what happens if you go in the draft, next thing you know, Genty's gone, your other couple running backs are gone, and you have a tight end there in the first round. You pick a tight end. Are we just going to – and then second round, you love this defensive tackle. Now, what are we going to do if we don't draft a running back to the 5th round? We're going to go with these other guys that we have. We're going to just roll back the same – running back room without Javonte Williams and a young drafted running back. So I'm concerned about that. I would like to have one known here. I mean, what are we going to pay him? 1 year, $5 million? 2 year, $8 million? I mean, I'll do that. I just think we need a guy that has done it. And I look at it as a positive. He played 13 games last year, 1 game the year before, and 8 games the year before that. And then he played 15 his rookie season. That's not a lot of wear and tear for a 26-year-old running back. He's only 26. Not a lot of wear and tear, Mike.
Well, say for a couple ACLs.
I mean, why'd you have to? I was kind of on a roll that you could have said, you're right.
A lot of tread on those tires still.
Well, no tread left on that ACL, but
yeah, that ACL is.
His hamstrings are good.
I'm sure his hamstrings are good.
Great.
I'm sure he has much better hamstrings than Greg Dulcich does at this point.
Yes, the calves are great.
Good calves. Better calves than Aaron Gordon.
Mike, you know what they say.
Yeah.
You know what they say.
What do they say?
Once they fix ACLs, it's better than before.
True.
That's what they say.
So imagine how much better he'll be after a couple.
Right.
Right?
He's like I don't know, Bionic Man.
Bionic Man.
He's not going to, I guarantee you, no more ACLs for him.
Okay.
He's not going to tear his ACL.
Okay, good.
All right.
That is good to know. We're also asking the question, with the Detroit Red Wings in town tonight, it no longer is the case, but man, what a rivalry that once was. Man, anytime the Avalanche and Red Wings got together, it was a circle the date on the calendar. Couldn't wait. Everybody was charged up for it. Both teams would bring it. And with the idea that, I can't wait for these two to meet in the playoffs, and they always delivered. But now the rivalry, of course, is dead. And I raised the question, does Denver's sports teams have rivalries today? If so, who? And why do you think it's a rivalry? You had an angle you wanted to go at.
I like your question. We went through the exercise of your question, and there's not much there, right, for any of our teams. Didn't we agree on that?
Right.
No, nothing close to obviously Detroit. But I was thinking about sports leagues. You look at football. Are there any hated rivalries there? I mean, you mentioned Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Okay.
Feels like that's still kind of hanging on by reputation.
Philly, Dallas.
No.
Yeah. But then I go football, and then I go basketball. These guys don't hate each other like they used to, right? In basketball,
right?
They're all buddies.
Yeah, they're hugging each other after the game.
Now, I think baseball, there's some hate there between teams and players. You see that. Now, I don't know if we have – I mean, you're going to have Yankees, Red Sox, and stuff like that, but do you have a Yankees, Astros? Do you have something like that where you cheated us out of a World Series? Because you see a lot of bad blood in baseball because you play 162 games. One team did something, and then you're throwing, baseballs at the other team's guys' heads, right? So there seems like in baseball there is some rivalries. Not to the degree of said, Red Wings, Avs, but I think in baseball there is because you play so many games, and I'm not talking about playoffs. I'm just talking about regular season hatred.
Seems like there's something there in the West with the Padres, Dodgers.
Yankees, yes, Padres, Dodgers, excuse me.
Dodgers, Giants have always been pretty heated, but I mean, I almost wonder now if that's more just between the fans than it is the actual teams. I don't feel a full-blown rivalry in any sport right now.
What about hockey? What about hockey? I mean, do we have any teams? I mean, we saw the gloves drop in the Four Nation where some teams and players just hate each other and they're ready to scrap. And that's still alive in hockey, right? Because you can fight. Baseball, same thing. You fight. You can't fight in basketball and you can't fight in football. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we see charging the mound and guys throwing blows in baseball and hockey, but you're not seeing that stuff in football
I get
and
that
basketball.
Trying to compare any rivalry to Avalanche Red Wings is almost unfair because that's setting the bar so high because that rivalry had everything. It checked every box you want in a rivalry. To try to compare other sports rivalries to Avalanche Red Wings at its peak, I think is it's a hopeless exercise. But I don't even see any rivalries that really come close to it. Like, all right, so here's some of the ones we're getting on the RamosLaw.com text line 303-713-1043. The Lakers are our rivals because we are their daddy. And then the flip of that is the Stars are our rival because we've never beaten the Stars. See, right there, those two matchups are not rivalries. You can't have a rivalry if it's one-sided. A rivalry only exists if you are playing high-stakes games where both sides achieve success.
Yeah.
It can't be one-sided. Then it's not a rivalry.
Don't you have to have some of the same players, too? Don't you have to have, same guys? It can't be all of a sudden you look, it can't be, LeBron leaves the Lakers and you're not going to have the same rivalry with them. Or Steph leaves Golden State and whoever was, their rival, it's not going to be the same anymore, right?
I appreciate the texters trying. The Rockies' arch rival is hotel beds.
Oh, wow.
Good one.
That's unnecessary. Low blow.
Dick Montfort versus Rockies fans.
Here we go.
Rivalry.
See, Mike,
Thank you.
I think you're just making these up.
Correctamundo.
The Nuggets' biggest rivalry is our GM.
Wow.
I like
People
it.
are taking shots.
That's good. I like it.
They're firing
Good
today.
snark. Good snark. Good snark.
It's going to be Mike, this is going to be interesting here the next couple months. Right? With the Nuggets? Very interesting what could play out if they have an early exit. If they're not healthy.
Define early.
First round.
Oh, if they go out in the first round?
Yeah, I mean, that's early, right?
If they go out in the first round and they have everybody at their disposal and they still go in the first round, you could see sweeping changes.
Sweeping.
New coach, new GM.
Oh, wait.
Trade, break up the core.
Well, you're going to break the core up. It's time to break the core for sure. That's at the top of the list. Okay, now slow down on Michael Malone, James Marilat. I think Calvin Booth would be in front of Michael Malone.
Ooh, well, okay, but let's step back one level here. You tell me your view of the Cronkies, Stan and Josh. Do you get the sense they are more Team Malone or Team Booth?
Well, that's a good question. And not knowing, I'm just totally speculating.
Totally speculating.
Right? I mean, no clue here. I would say more Team Malone. I mean, he's the one that delivered a championship, right? I mean, I get it. Calvin was here, but Calvin took over from from Tim Connolly. So it wasn't like he orchestrated this for the last 10 years. He kind of took over and did a little, a couple additions to what the master plan already was. So I would speculate, totally speculation here, that it would be Michael Malone. And also here, we got to remember, that doesn't even matter.
What do you mean?
Jokic matters.
Jokic matters.
Does Jokic like Michael Malone?
That's a good point. Does
Jokic want Michael Malone to stay? Then Michael Malone stays. And that's end of story right there. So
that's his greatest job security right there, isn't
absolutely. It? No matter what happens, if Jokic still believes and still wants him around, he's going to be around, okay? And so and I would, again, speculate that and say, yes, I think they are they work well together, Jokic and Michael Malone. So I would say Michael Malone would not be second on the list. I would say Calvin Booth would be in front of him, but you're going to definitely, I mean, that core four is definitely going to
have to be broken up.
Absolutely.
Have to.
One or two guys are going to have to be moved.
Have to. If you finish it. Okay, so you're saying if that happens after first round, what happens if it happens in the second round?
Same thing.
Same thing?
Same thing. I mean, I'm not saying you got to
in terms of breaking up the core.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to break the core up last year during the offseason. I wanted to kind of spice things up. Sometimes you got to spice things up, Mike. And
who'd you want to move?
Well, I was looking at before they signed the extension, you looked at Jamal, possibly. I mean, what could you get in return? Michael Porter Jr. obviously was on the list. Everybody was pretty much on the list, Mike, except for Jokic.
Right.
I'm open to, I mean, that's what you do.
Yep.
You're open for business.
Have to be.
And you take the best deal that you think can improve your team. And so that's where I was in the offseason. But I just think that if you don't get to at least the Western Finals, you got to make big changes. I mean, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And if you can't get past the second round, you've got to make significant changes. But I will remind you and all Nugget fans out there what Calvin Booth said during the offseason. Said it's not necessarily about trying to win a championship this year. It's about setting yourself up to win multiple championships in the years to come, which almost makes me wonder if the organization, meaning the Cronkies, have signed off on the idea that, hey, this is the year before the year, and that this is the year about developing a lot of younger players that, come back next year. Another year of experience for Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, those guys. That will be when
Well, I mean,
the real expectations and reckoning will kick in.
Who said that 2 years ago, right?
Well, he said it after this
Again?
last year. He said it after last year.
Again?
Yeah, he
said
said
that the year before, didn't he? Or am I just my years just going
the year
together?
before they won the title.
And he said that after that year.
No, he said it after the exit
This year?
this past year. Last year.
Okay.
Minnesota. Just Minnesota. After the Minnesota series.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thought
and then again prior to the start of the season. During the media days, he talked about the idea that
I thought it was the year before that. But
No.
whatever. Okay, whatever. Mike, I mean, you can't just – and I get it. You want to look at the big picture too. You want to look at 3, 4, 5 years down the road. That's the general manager's job. You don't just look at what's going to happen now. But when you have Jokic – and you have that core group, there is only so many things you can do, though, too. So you are a little bit handcuffed.
you have to, but you have to be thinking about
what is
maximizing the window now.
Yeah. Well,
you can't take a Jokic year and just, punt it.
No, I'm with you, but what does that mean? They have. I mean, you paid Gordon, you paid Porter Jr., you paid Murray, and then you can't pay 10 guys.
Right.
That's my point here, is you paid 4 guys, so now you got to supplement that with younger, cheaper talent.
Well,
because you don't want to get to a certain apron. Right, and then now all of a sudden you can't do certain things moving forward. So I think unless you make trades and moves, then you're kind of going to be stuck with top-loaded contracts with your core 4. Then you got to supplement those guys with Russell Westbrook and then young guys.
Well, I'm with you, and I think everybody would agree. The Nuggets can't be thinking about wasting a year in the Nikola Jokic era. There's no way you can do that. Well, based on the comments I heard from Calvin Booth, I've gotten the sense that they are willing to sacrifice a championship-driven year with the idea of setting themselves up for longer-term success. Yes,
How? Why? But their actions tell you otherwise.
No, they don't. Their actions tell you that they are thinking long-term because they did not look to bring in veteran players to help win now.
They couldn't.
Well, they could.
No, they couldn't. No, they couldn't. That's the problem with the aprons. You could only go so far, and you got the bird rights, you got this right. I can't even follow it all because I'm not a lawyer, Mike. I didn't know if you knew that. So, but you pay 4 guys the way that they paid it. Now, again, like I just said, you got to supplement that with younger, cheaper talent. So. But they're not – I don't think they're wasting it. If they were wasting it, they wouldn't have re-signed Jamal and they wouldn't have re-signed Aaron Gordon.
The Rockies' real rivalry is their owner.
Oh,
See, I'm just reading
No,
it.
you're
I'm
not.
just
No, you're
reading
making
it
it up. I don't believe you.
Okay, here's another one.
I don't believe
the
you.
Rockies' greatest rivalry would be rainouts because then you can't get people into Coors Field to spend money. I'm not
I don't believe
not making these up. I'm old school, guys. The Raiders are still a rivalry. No, they're not. No, it's not.
That's
Nope. No, it's not.
I mean, I think I think for some fans like that, and that's respect. You're always going to hate the Raiders, right? Because you had a great rivalry at one time. Just like, so if you're a Colts fan and you lived and you were there through our heyday, when we're running through the Broncos. And that stretch right there, that 4-year stretch, and having a lot of fun. But the Patriots.
Oh, good for you.
You leaving Al Wilson in the dust, things like that.
Where's Al at? Al, you around me? Nope.
He's breathing Stokley exhaust fumes.
Hey, give me knuckles, baby. Give me knuckles. I like you. Yeah, I like that.
I like the imagery of that one.
Just pump it up a little bit more. Let's go. No, but
67 yards to the house.
No, it's more like 87.
Oh, 80.
More like 87. Mike, come on.
I'm sorry.
A little bit more respect.
Sorry there.
Gosh, look at you. Look what you got me doing.
I get you all fired up.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal.
But if you were there, though, if you were a Colts fan then, and that was a team that you just battled over and over, and you hated them, they were cheaters, and you still hate them today, right? You still hate them today.
Right.
So Broncos fans, yes, you should always hate the Raiders, but it's not the rivalry that it once was. But
Right.
for you individually,
Correct.
you always hate them and you always pull against them.
Yes, and I'm not going to tell fans, not to hate the Raiders and not to, still think of them as rivals. I'm just saying that when you look at the classic definition of what makes up a rivalry, Broncos Raiders ain't it. It just isn't. And I just don't know if there is a true rival of any of the Denver sports teams. And that's not necessarily the Denver sports team's fault. It's, a lot of the teams around them, the teams they compete against, not making it a rivalry. But
Okay, how about this?
It's a question that we'll
Can we
continue to
have
get
one?
reaction
Can
to.
we have one coming up? Because we got a young quarterback. So all of a sudden, we're going to be winning, right? That's
Right.
the expectation now. And you look around the league, who else has a young quarterback that we might, could it be Kansas City now that we're actually relevant?
Mm-hmm.
And we did beat them last year, right? I know they gifted us one. Or how about the Chargers?
Yeah.
I don't know the Chargers, just kind of the
It's
Chargers.
just the
But they have a young quarterback. They got Harbaugh. We got Peyton.
Yeah.
You know,